Gakushu looked back to the face of the girl that he was still holding on to. He didn't know the names of the colors, but he thought she looked beautiful in color. With her beautiful skin-colored skin, her hair length, hair-colored locks, and those bright, eye-colored irises that he had seen before. Her whole look came together. She was gorgeous. Wyan looked back to the boy who was still holding on to her. She didn't know the names of the colors, but she could see why some students would gush over him. He wasn't exactly her type. Nevertheless, he was still handsome. He had strawberry blonde hair, fair skin that was astoundingly clear, and of course, the violet eyes that she had seen before. She gasped and shook her hand out of his grasp. "What did you do to me?" she asked. Gakushu scowled. "I saved you from getting run over?" "Thank you. But I mean, other than that." She furrowed her brows with confusion as she shook her head. "Why can I see color now?" Gakushu wasn't surprised, per se. He was still perplexed. "You were colorblind as well?" Neither of them spoke after that question. Instead, they went their separate ways. Wyan skipped school that day and ran home, frantically asking her grandmother and aunt what was happening to her. She was frightened and nervous. She didn't know what was going on. Both of her guardians were unbelievably happy for her. However, she couldn't seem to get a proper answer out of either of them. However, her aunt did suggest one thing after hearing that she had made contact with the person. "Maybe you're part of a small percentage in the world that has a soulmate." Wyan cynically laughed and told her that soulmates don't exist. What really left Wyan speechless was that her aunt also found her soulmate. On her aunt's ankle was the name of her soulmate, which was also the name of her boyfriend. Wyan's heart dropped at this. She didn't want Gakushu Asano, the board chairman's son, as her soulmate. Out of all people in her town, why did it have to be him? Wyan did her own research. According to said research, colorblind but suddenly able to see color after making contact with someone, able to see a red string tied to your pinky that's tied to someone else's pinky, writing on your body only to realize that that's not handwriting and you didn't write that on yourself, something similar or a mixture of some. Congratulations, you are part of the 8% of people in the world who are able to find their soulmate. Most of the time, 2 or more of these things work for a pair, so try it out with your significant other. No way. Wyan, language, her aunt called to her from the kitchen. Sorry, she apologized and then looked back to her tablet. Mixture, huh? If I can't see the red string, then maybe we're not actually soulmates, and I'm just paranoid. So what if? She jumped out of her bed and approached the mirror, picking up a black marker. Before she did anything, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her grandmother and aunt had told her that she had hair-colored hair and eye-colored eyes. She didn't think she'd ever see it in her entire life. Her whole life, she believed she was fully colorblind. She uncapped the marker and wrote on her right cheek. She smirked when she read over what she had written. Gakushu stood in front of the student council with his amicable and benevolent smile. For the sake of our gracious school, we must band together and live up to our academy's name, he announced. Instead of getting a room full of claps, all he got was confused stares and quiet giggles. President? Seo Tomio called out to him. Yes? Gakushu questioned. You have something right here. Teppei Araki pointed to his own right cheek. Ren Sakibara took out his own phone to use as a mirror. Gakushu irked when he read the writing. Gakushu Asano is a cow. His eyebrows twitched as he walked out of the room. Please, excuse me for one moment. He made his way to the boys' restroom and tried to clean off the writing. It wasn't coming off. He knew for a fact that this was not his handwriting. This was the second weird thing that happened to him today. First, his world exploded with color, and now writing appeared on his cheek. Writing that wasn't coming off. Ren walked into the bathroom with a suggestion. You said you can see color now, right? Yes, and what of it? Gakushu scowled, still trying to rub off the writing. Did you start to see color after touching someone? Ren questioned. Yes. Gakushu turned to him, crossing his arms. Ren's eyes widened slightly, but he chuckled. I can't believe I'm about to say this to you, but you might have just found your soulmate. Gakushu scoffed. Don't be ridiculous. Soulmates don't exist, and I do not have one. I'm serious. Ren held out a pen for him. Try writing on your other cheek. Ask if someone is receiving your message. Gakushu stared at him for a moment with a glare. He took the pen from his hands and clicked it. He began to scribble something onto his cheek. Hwayun breathed a sigh of relief when she didn't get anything within the first few minutes. She was about to fall back on her bed and take a nap, until she saw the red pen lines of a word forming on her left cheek. If you get this on your cheek, write back. And by the way, I am not a cow. Her chest filled with dread as she furrowed her eyebrows in distress. She wiped off her previous writing on her right cheek and wrote, Don't fucking tell me we're actually soulmates. She quickly got a response. Please refrain from writing profanities on my cheek. Please. The writing wiped off and was replaced with a question. Is this YNLN? She let out a groan and wrote back. Unfortunately. She didn't get a response back for a few minutes. Then the words Gakushu wrote disappeared and were replaced with different ones. This is a mistake. Hwayun scowled and wiped off her previous response. Yeah, I know. Several weeks later, the two never spoke to each other again. Hwayun was inevitably thrown into Class E, not because of her grades, but mostly because of her attitude. This made Gakushu even more revolted by the fact that they were soulmates. Let's just say the principal, Gakuho, didn't take too kindly to some of her very sharp words. In E class, Hwayun found that she felt right at home. When she got transferred to 3E, she had lost her friends, which kind of hurt. But it wasn't like they were close anyway. She already knew Yuma Isogai and Hirota Mahara, since her grandmother's house was relatively nearby where they lived. In addition, she had met Nagisa Shiota, Tsujino Tomohito, Kaede Kaino, Manami Okuda, Yukiko Kanzaki, and now her best friend, Ryo Nakamura. She had told Kaede and Ryo about her unlucky situation with the board chairman's son. Respectively, they gave her a look of pity, and one that teased her. She also became good friends with Kiyahara Hazame due to a common interest in classic and dark literature that led to her to become well acquainted with the Tarasuka gang. Taisei Yoshida even helped her repair her bike that was ruined. She also met Karma Akabane, someone who she accidentally took interest in. Not only that, she had met Koro-sensei, Class E's doting teacher that they had assassinated the night before their graduation. It was a melancholy experience for everyone. For Hwayun, Koro-sensei was the teacher that convinced her to strive for better grades. He helped her realize what she wanted to be once high school would pass. He revealed her hidden potential, which allowed her to tie with Karma for the first place in the end-of-year exams. Right above Gakushu Asano, her unfortunate soulmate. Instead of rubbing it in his face like she wanted to, she opted not to. The two had made an unspoken agreement to not even interact with one another. They didn't want anything to do with each other. Years passed, and the two of them were second-year students at Kunigigaoka High. Hwayun's attitude mellowed out after Koro-sensei had chewed her out. Her attitude problem was now a minor issue and could easily be calmed down. She was still blunt and honest, though. She hopped on the money grind. In her first year of high school, she got a job at a cafe called Lucettes. One of the main things she developed as skill was in art. That's right. Once she had learned the names of all the colors she saw, she immediately began to work on her art skills. In her free time, she began to sew and embroider colorful patterns into cloth. Eventually, she saved up enough money to move out and give her aunt and grandma one less mouth to feed. Within that 3 years time skip, her aunt had gotten married to her soulmate. Wyan's aunt had suggested that her husband, which was now Wyan's uncle, move in with them. They were not expecting to give birth to a set of triplets, 2 boys and 1 girl. So, Wyan moved out a few months ago and into a rented apartment. She had filled it with old furniture her aunt and grandmother were no longer using. She grew a few centimeters taller, and her body matured a bit more. She had dyed the tips of her hair favorite color, taking full advantage of the fact that she could see color now. Whenever she wasn't at school, she would put on light makeup for work. This included eyeliner, mascara, and maybe a little bit of lip makeup. Even with all of this time, Gakushu and Wyan never spoke much to each other. They were both mildly irked when fate decided to put them in the same high school class. Now, fate was literally looking down upon both of them. It had been 3 years since the 2 of them found out they were soulmates. Yet, nothing seemed to be happening between the 2 of them. They were 17 now, and there was no progress whatsoever in their relationship. Fate hated being wrong, so they took it upon themselves to give them a push. Wyan had gotten back from school. She threw her school bag onto the floor and slumped her body onto the couch that was passed down from her grandmother. She let out a sigh and pulled off her tie. She unbuttoned the first few buttons of her skirt. God, I hate school. After realizing that she had work in an hour, she took a shower and she wrapped her towel around herself. She began to observe herself in the mirror. Sometimes it still made her awe at the fact that she could see color now. She started to dry her hair, but paused when she noticed her reflection was not moving with her. She froze when she saw herself wave at her. In a thick, British accent, her reflection spoke.
Hi, so you know how you have a soulmate?
Wyan blinked a few times.
I'm the one that decided to make that happen.
Wyan narrowed her eyes at her own figure in the mirror.
Nice to meet you. I'm fate itself.
Did I eat something? Or am I going insane? And this is where the story begins. Guys, I did not realize that this was an entire story. There is 28 chapters, not including the prologue that I just finished. If you guys are willing to let me finish off, read this entire story, I would love to do that. But I'm also going to be posting others, one-shots in between, just so we can get, a mixture. Does that make sense? So, requests are still open, but I do want to finish this story because I'm so invested. I thought this was a one-shot, but now I'm invested. Yeah, so please stick around. And while you're at it, maybe subscribe. Anyways, have an amazing morning, have an amazing afternoon, have an amazing evening whenever you are, and I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.